If you want to know the easiest way to start gardening and to grow loads of herbs, then you're going to love this project. Today, I am putting together a super beautiful herb container garden, and it's something that can work for you even if you've got a small space, even if you don't have a lot of sun, even if you swear that you don't have a green thumb. So let's talk about the specifics of everything you need to grow herbs. The first thing you want to have is a container of some sort. I love to have a container that's made with natural materials. This one is stainless steel. It's food grade, it's safe for growing herbs, and I love it because it doesn't dry out too fast, drains quickly, and allows me to pack in the herbs. This is our Gardenary herb container garden, but you can make your own. If you don't get your hands on these, we've only got a few in the shop, but we went ahead and put drainage holes in the bottom of this container, and that's what you want to do if you get your own. So the Gardenary one, we went ahead and added 5 drainage holes. You want to be sure that this is a well-draining container because the herbs we grow, they hate staying wet. So you got a container. We also have a drip tray here so that you can have your container up on a tabletop or somewhere where you don't want water to spill out. So you could also have a container that's terracotta. I don't love terracotta because it dries out pretty quickly, but you could also have a wood container, so made of cedar or another natural wood. That works just as well. So that's the first thing you need is a container. The next thing we're going to do is make sure we have a way to keep our soil inside the container. You could use a weed barrier cloth. I love just taking some burlap and layering there on the bottom. You might want to have yours be a little bit thicker. So after you put in that burlap into your container, you want to bring in some soil. Now the soil that I love to use in an herb container is usually a mix. I like to do a sand, topsoil, and compost mix all in one container. Today, I'm keeping it simple and just using a local soil blend that I really love. So with your soil, you want to be sure that it has plenty of drainage. You don't want a really thick clay soil. You also want to be sure that it's got a little bit of nutrients in it. That's why I love to mix in some compost with my garden soil. So I'm going to fill this up almost to the top. And now I am ready to plant my herbs. Now there's 2 ways to plant your herbs. You could plant herbs by seed, or you can simply put plants directly in the container. There are 2 types of herbs, 2 categories that I like to use when thinking about an herb garden: perennial and annual. So perennial herbs, those are those that are going to grow year after year in the garden. We have these actually all around our kitchen garden space, and you can grow them in a large bed, but you can also grow them in a small container like this one. If I'm growing a perennial herb, generally I like to start with the plant. One, because I know it's totally worth the money. I'm going to have this plant for years to come. Also because it's usually a little bit harder to start perennial herbs from seed. The next category are annual herbs. Annual herbs are plants that only last for a season, about 3 months. So annual herbs, when it's cool outside, are cilantro, dill, and parsley. Or actually parsley's biennial. We'll get to that later. And then in the warmer part of the year, the annual herb that we love to grow is basil. So for this project today, I'm going to be starting all with plants. But if you're starting your own herb garden and you want to try out starting from seed, then I would recommend starting your perennial plants with a plant and starting your annual plants with seeds. If it's cooler where you are when you're watching this video, then start with cilantro, parsley, and dill. And if it's warmer when you're watching this video, you could start with some basil seed. You only need 1 seed for each and every herb plant you're going to grow, so you're not going to need many seeds for this container. But you're going to be amazed at how many plants we're going to fit into this one Gardenary container garden. So first we're going to start with our rosemary. This plant is going to get really nice and big. You can see it's already a nice size plant. We're going to put this one right at the back and center of the container. It's going to be this nice kind of anchor plant for the whole herb garden. Next up, we're going to take 2 plants that grow kind of similarly. They have similar growth habits, and we're going to put one on each corner of this container garden. It's going to make it so pretty because these little herb plants are going to grow right over the edge of the garden. So I'm going to take my hand here and just dig just a little bit and let that herb just hang right on the edge. Thyme loves to creep. It loves to kind of grow over the edge of something. So we're going to let it do just that. And the other plant that does this so well is oregano. So we're going to take oregano, plant it on this side, and let it grow right over the edge of that one. So this is going to give this nice cascading look, both of these herbs growing over the edge just like that. Now, right in front of the rosemary, I want to grow something else that has a good consistent growth habit and will grow right over the center and kind of hang over the middle of the little container garden. And that's going to be sage. So sage has more of a bush-like habit, and it's not going to be that tall. So it's going to pair really well with this rosemary. That's going to go nice and big and tall in the background. So now we've got 4 herbs already in this bed, and now we're going to move over to our annual herbs. So we'll start with some parsley. Now, I made the mistake of telling you that parsley was an annual. It's actually a biennial. What does that mean? It means that it would last 2 years in the garden if the weather permits. So if it's not a really, really cold climate, your parsley is going to stay in the garden for 2 years. So in Chicago, it didn't. But in Nashville, it does. And in Houston, where I gardened when I first started, it lasted basically forever. So I'm going to take this parsley and put it just right to the side of the rosemary. It looks so pretty right here in the back. And parsley eventually will grow really nice and tall. So I want to give it plenty of room to do just that. And then I've actually got this little center space here where I'm going to add 2 little sprigs of parsley as well. So now I've got my parsley added in to complement the strong anchor plant of this rosemary. The parsley's got this nice kind of flowy texture. Next up is dill. Dill's in the same plant family as the parsley, but it is not a biennial. It's very much an annual. It's only going to be in this container for a few months. So I'm going to keep this plant together. It's actually a lot of dill all in one container, but it looks a little frail. So I don't want to chance it. So I'm just going to keep it all together and pop it in right there. Then I've got one more annual plant left, and that is basil. So we are now outside of the threat of frost, which means it's okay for me to plant basil. But if you are still under frost threat, then you would not want to plant basil in this container if it's going to be outside. So I'm going to pop this one right here. So look, in this tiny little container, and I forgot to tell you when we talked about containers, sizing. So sizing really matters. You definitely want to have a container for your herbs that's at least a foot deep and at least a foot wide. And so that's why we made this Gardenary container just like this, so that it's at least a foot deep and at least a foot wide. But here are all the herbs you can fit into one little container. And now it's time for me to use our cute little plant tags. So I've got this one for rosemary. Oh my goodness, so cute. Got this little one here for some oregano. Got this one here for my thyme. I got this one here for my dill. Where is she? And this one here for my parsley. So now I know where everything is planted, and believe it or not, we can start harvesting right now. So herbs are plants that grow back from the center, and they actually also will bush out at every point where you prune them back. So it's actually helpful to cut and harvest from your herbs more often than not. So hear me out. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared to harvest your herbs. So I'm going to come in here and take my very first herb harvest, and that's going to show you how easy it is to create a little tiny herb garden that you can enjoy all season long. So on this rosemary, I'm going to take these pruners. These come in our herb container garden kit, and I'm going to prune this rosemary right here in between the leaf nodes. You can see where these 2 leaves start to send shoots on both sides. And I'm going to put my pruners right there and cut a little sprig. So tonight, we're having rosemary potatoes, all right? Right from my tiny little herb garden. I'm going to do this on each and every rosemary. And what this does is it's going to encourage this rosemary to put all its efforts to growing nice and deep roots, and then also eventually will make this plant bush out and give me 2 stems everywhere it's growing. To prune your sage is the same way. I'm going to cut right between these 2 leaf nodes, and pruning for the basil is the same. So I'm going to come right below these 2 leaf nodes and cut off my first little sprig of basil too. I'll do the same with some thyme, and I'll do the same with some oregano. So in just a few minutes, I have planted up this beautiful herb garden. All I needed was a container, some soil, some plants, maybe some seeds, a couple of tags, and pruners. And there you have it. That's how you can grow the easiest thing to grow in a food garden. simply by creating a little tiny herb container like this one. So you can get harvests like this almost every day to bring into the kitchen to enjoy the taste of fresh homegrown food and to become a gardener this season, even if you swear you don't have a green thumb. Our mission at Gardenary is to get everybody growing their own herbs, and we have tons of ways to help you grow your own herbs at home. You can check out the links right below this video where you can find how to order our herb container garden, and you can find every single resource we've got on growing herbs that you can start watching right away. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.